Poetry rocks the district. My name is Regie Cabico. I am a poet and arts educator and theater artist. In this second installment of our spoken word series, we will be examining DC as the classroom. Our special guest is Sasha Sinclair, who is a docent at the National Gallery of Art, as well as a visual artist, a phenomenal one in and of her own right. We will also have John Sands, who's the winner of the National Poetry Series, who's going to present his poem, It's a Lot. Our theme today is about It's a Lot. We have been going through the pandemic and quarantine and examining who we are right now in America. And so, without any further ado, let's give it up for Sasha Sinclair.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sasha Sinclair, and thanks again for that really great introduction, Reggie. For those who may not have met me before, I am a docent at the National Gallery of Art, and what that means is I give tours of the collection's permanent installations and artworks and talk about art and artists from the medieval ages all the way up to contemporary art. So it's a fun job. I get to interact with the public and share our the nation's treasures with everybody. So, and today on that theme of It's a Lot, I'm going to talk about an artist that is has a really great connection to this theme. His name is Glenn Ligon, and I'm going to share my screen with you momentarily as soon as I get everything up. All right, so Double America by Glenn Ligon. Now, Glenn Ligon is an amazing artist in and of his own right. He is, here we are, let me get his picture up here. So Glenn Ligon is born in 1960s from the Bronx. He still lives in New York and practices art in New York. And he's a conceptual artist. And that simply means that he uses ideas from his head. He references whatever comes up into his mind and tries to communicate that through the art making process. And so he's basically known for creating text-based artworks that explore race and identity, and also his experience as living as a gay man. So he's a very fascinating character when you bring all his lived experiences into things. And so what we're going to talk about is his work called Double America, which you see here on the right-hand side, which is also in my museum, my home museum of the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. And so let's take a closer look at this work of art. Here we go. Now, what we're looking at here is the word America spelled out twice, once on the top, once on the bottom. But when you look closer, you'll notice that on the very top, we have its neon and paint that he uses. So America that you see here glowing in white at the top is actually looking a little bit odd to us because we're looking at it from behind. So when you look at this piece in person, you see the white neon glowing towards you, but it's also got black painting on the back of it. And as a converse, almost like a mirror image, but not quite. The bottom is exact same, but it's upside down. And the letters, if you read them right side up, would read America outright. Now, when you look closer at this, the idea that you have some letters on the top that are backwards, for example, the E, the R, and the C, for example, America. And also, when you look at how he wires up the neon to be bright, it's not like he has one set of wires at the top or one set of wires on the bottom. If you look closely, those wires actually begin to part in the middle. So the AMEs, they have a certain, at the top and bottom, they have a certain wire that connects their power, just like the RICAs on the other side. So we have this division in the middle of America. So with all these different things, what does this actually mean? Well, this artwork can be read on a lot of different levels. It's an artwork at its core that talks about the, our outright two different types of America that we live in. And it's largely the experiences can be different according to your race, or more importantly to racism, and the discrimination we have that's historical as well as that is living out or playing out in our everyday lives. And so how did he come about this very specific type of text-based art and the concept behind it of two different Americas? Well, in his writings about his work, he came up with two specific influences he always referenced. One is actually a painting, a very famous work of art in the European art tradition, and it's called Wanderer Above the Sea Fog. And for those who may not have seen this painting in person or as a print, it's done by a German artist named Caspar David Friedrich. And it comes from a time point in the early 1800s where there was this consideration of what the world is. So you see we're looking from behind from this gentleman. We see him, his back facing us, looking out into the infinite fog in the mountains in this particular picture. And the idea of looking at it from behind, or looking for us seeing him from behind, does really touch upon that idea of America at the top being written backwards, and we see it as if we're seeing it from behind, as we're seeing it from a place of intimacy, of privilege, in a way that we can honestly say a lot of white Americans may see America. They have a certain type of way of being able to see things from the backside as well as from the front. The same thing also happens with another type of reference he uses, and he uses a literary reference. In this case, he uses Charles Dickens, and Charles Dickens famously wrote the novel A Tale of Two Cities. And here we have his very famous quote that appears at the very beginning of his work of art, of his book, And just to read part of it, it says, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, the age of wisdom, the age of foolishness, the season of light, the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair." So he uses this duality. He takes from that text that duality of worst and best, wisdom and foolishness, and so on and so forth. And so now you can see how he can come about, and with those influences come back to this America work of art, this neon, and his in black and white, and the duality we talked about before. And here I've shown you where I've actually written out the text again, but actually written it in a poem-like fashion, so you can really see the duality that he's really emphasizing here. The best of times, the worst of times, wisdom, foolishness, light and dark, hope and despair. This idea of the heaviness and the lightness, the idea of using words to evoke a sense of experience, or to help you remember that experience. And depending on where you stand in America, as far as your, all types of different demographics, as far as race or income level, the idea that or political divisions. So we have all these things going on in this particular work of art, and really an artist who definitely is taking us there. He wants us to consider really what was going on at this time. This original one, Double America, was done in 2012. This is the time we're still in the first term of the President Barack Obama, the first Black American president that was elected, and we have this elevation of that distinct difference of being black or white in America. And so this is something that when you look at this work, a text-based work of art, that you can definitely link to poetry and through this, because of all the different ideas that just the word America evokes, and the word double America evokes. So titling is always important to artists like this, conceptual artists, because the concept is embedded in the title and the materials he uses. Neon, think about the neon signs we all think about when we go to the movie theaters or different places where we see neon that brings our attention to something. So the idea of attention grabbing medium, and also the white paint versus the black paint, the idea of the letters on the bottom being black and the letters on top being white, or glowing white. And so once again, the racial divisions are evoked there as well. It's also important to note that this artist doesn't take anything for granted, and he keeps on playing with this idea of America and double America. So there are many versions of this around the country and in different collections, and also he expands on this idea, and I'll just show you a couple of these. The first one I'll show you is a red one, and it's just simply called Untitled or America 2018. This was done now, we're in the presidency of Donald Trump, and so this reference to red, the color red with America upside down, definitely does take us there when we think about where we were sitting in 2018, dealing with an American president that basically felt like he had the world upside down for us. And then of course, we have another version of this, a double America, that's actually at the Broad in Los Angeles. And as I end here, I just want to play this video so you can see how evocative this looks when you actually have America blinking. One blinking out, blinking in, blinking together. And that is another way he uses the medium of neon to really evoke the sense of difference and disparity in art, as well as is reflected in our life. So thank you for that. And with that, I'll turn to Regie and say, well, what do you think about that presentation, Regie?
Well, you totally rock it out all the time. You're rocking my district, our district. Thank you for the phenomenal work that you're doing. What I was left with, and especially now, looking at the pieces, the reason why America is great is because of our electricity. And like it's currently, as we're recording this, we're experiencing one of the most egregious uh, blackouts in the country in Texas. So I guess the idea of our success comes from our electrical grid and our 24-hour go, go, go um, policy that we have. Um, but all of the divisions are very, very apparent. You would never think that the root of the double America comes from that other artwork,
Hmm.
which when you put them together, the color palettes look very, very similar. Um, and so going with the theme, it's a lot for the perspective in that painting of that one individual looking out into the expanse. It definitely is. It's a lot, but in general, America is a lot. It is a lot. Even our fast foods, only we invented supersize, supersize,
It's a
super
lot.
a lot.
So with that in
So
mind, you definitely see how you can definitely connect Ligon's work, a text-based work of art with text, with creating literature, with creating meaning in literature. And so I think this is a reason why I think poetry and art really has an affinity for one another, because they do tend to inspire one another. And here we see a very direct connection with that with Glenn's work. So I just want to say thank you again for letting me share this work of art with everybody, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the Poetry Rocks episode.
Sasha, thank you so much. Our next guest coming up is John Sands, winner of the 2018 National Poetry Series, um, which published his book, It's Not Magic, from Beacon Press. He is the author of The New Clean from Right Bloody Publishing. Um, he's been hosting an interview series on Instagram Live called PS and Questions, PS and QS. You can follow him at I am John Sands, JONSANDS. His work's been featured in the New York Times as well as in the Best American Poetry. He teaches at Brooklyn College and Urban Word. Sasha and I remember his performance at the National Theater for their Saturday morning youth programs. And we're so lucky that John Sands is here.
Thank you, thank you, Reggie. Always so grateful to share space with you. And thank you, Washington, D.C. as a city. I'm happy to do anything that's in your orbit, in particular, Busboys and Poets, the National Theater, and in general, just really grateful to be here. So this poem is called It's a Lot. It's a lot to open your eyes in the morning, to taste your own unbrushed mouth, to hear thousands of voices and believe your own. It's a lot to lose even one friend, to not be heard, or to be heard and still be paranoid that people hate you. It's a lot to put your heart on another's train tracks, to not take a loved one hostage with your own fear, with what you don't want to know about yourself. Once, to explain how cold I'd become, I confessed my love to a friend who didn't love me back. I felt the words leave my chest, genuine, desperate, and gone. It was a lot. Con ed bills, job applications, small talk, a lot to shake hands, raise eyebrows, debate about basketball, eye contact over beer. It's a lot to hide behind a new shirt, old jeans, to grow a beard or eat a whole pizza, to practice restraint or to jog voluntarily. It's a lot to remember a birthday, let alone purchase a card and mail it, to love people who are as imperfect as you are. It's a lot to not get your feelings hurt, to let emotions pass through you, to see your mother look like your grandmother. It's all very necessary, but still it's a lot. To say, I've been good as a mannerism, to say, I haven't as a fact. It's a lot as well to include the good things, to not make a caricature of your sadness, to only get your jump shot so good and still to have it fall left, to attend the dentist. It's a lot to be a good husband, an inattentive uncle, to not know how to respond to an email, so to say nothing. It's a lot, maybe the most, to say nothing. Yes, to say nothing, and therefore continue holding that nothing inside you. That is by far the most.
I'm so inspired by John Sand's reading, as well as Sasha Sinclair's arts presentation. What we were going to do right now is we're going to dive into our poetry writing exercise. What I would like for you to do as a warm-up is to grab your writing utensil. Call me old-fashioned. I like a pen. Grab your notebook. You've got about 2 or 3 minutes to write a list of things that are heavy and things that are light. For example, on my heavy list, I would say electrical outages, elections, grand pianos, barbells, bowling balls. But then also think, are there foods that are heavy? Fettuccine Alfredo. Again, take heavy, outside of the box, as well as light. So on my light things, some of those things are cotton candy, feathers, quills. Keep going. Give yourself about 3 minutes to write these lists. So pause, generate your list, and then when you're done, unpause. So now that we've got our images generated, our poem of the day is inspired by our presentations, really thinking about the upside down that we've been living in, even within our own homes, as well as living in America during this pandemic and being on the verge of new administration. Let's really use this time to write for ourselves. What I would like for you to do is start with "It's a lot too." And I really want you to talk about and list those things that you have been thinking about or been going through. As you write your poem, try to incorporate some of those images from your heavy and light list. So here is my draft. It's a lot to step outside at 7 a.m. for a coffee, to wear a mask when there's no one around you, to have your eyeglasses steam up, and you tread on slick, icy sidewalks. It's a lot to hold your balance. It's a lot to start a Monday by relying on a Google Calendar, restarting your phone, and your screen freezes on Zoom. It's a lot to be told what to do by a government agency who wants you to teach poetry to seniors their way, but you obey. It's a lot to let go when you're holding on tight to what you've worked for, to make sense of your tax statements, to make an appointment with a doctor. It's a lot to put on a brave face and act like America is just a giant purple patch of cotton candy. It's a lot to live by the Capitol with tanks and security when you're trying to deliver medicine to your best friend in winter. So that is the start of my draft of my poem. I can't wait to finish it. I can't wait to hear what you can come up with. This is your own poem, run with it. And as usual, I might give you a little directive, but at this point, write from your gut, write from what you're feeling. You could also start with America is. What is America? We've got a lot of inspiration for your poetry. So good luck, and we will see you in the next episode of Poetry Rocks the District. I'm Regie Cabico.